I believe we're going now back to the venue of the talks in Geneva, Switzerland, where U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is taking the podium to address the journalists standing by. Let's listen in without further ado.
Very early morning to all of you. It's been a long day, a long night, and I'm delighted to be here to share some thoughts with you about this negotiation. And I particularly want to thank the Swiss government, want to thank the United Nations, the Palais, and we're honored to be here, even at this very early hour of the morning. I particularly want to thank my colleagues from the United Kingdom, Germany, France, Russia, China, and especially Lady Cathy Ashton, who is not only a good friend, but a persistent and dogged negotiator and somebody who's been staying at this for a long period of time, and we're very grateful for her stewardship of these negotiations. And if I can take a moment, I really want to thank the team from the United States. There have been a great many people involved in this effort for a long period of time now, both here in Switzerland with us now, but also back in the United States, and they know who they are. But I will single out our Undersecretary of State, Wendy Sherman, who has been a dogged, unbelievably patient hand and a skillful hand, and she has helped through long and arduous months, years of stewardship of our part of this within the P5+1, and I'm very grateful to her for those long efforts and all of her team. At the United Nations General Assembly in September, President Obama asked me and our team to work with our partners in order to pursue a negotiated settlement or solution with respect to the international community's concerns about Iran's nuclear program. Last month, the P5+1 entered into a more accelerated negotiation after a number of years of meetings in various parts of the world and efforts to engage Iran in serious negotiations. The purpose of this is very simple: to require Iran to prove the peaceful nature of its nuclear program and to ensure that it cannot acquire a nuclear weapon. And the reason for this is very clear. The United Nations Security Council found that they were not in compliance with NPT or other IAEA and other standards, and obviously activities such as a secret multi-centrifuge mountain hideaway, which was being used for enrichment, raised many people's questions, which is why ultimately sanctions were put in place. Today, we are taking a serious step toward answering all of those important questions that have been raised through the United Nations Security Council, through the IAEA, and by individual countries. And we are taking those steps with an agreement that impedes the progress in a very dramatic way of Iran's principal enrichment facilities and parts of its program, and ensures that it cannot advance in a way that will threaten our friends in the region, threaten other countries, threaten the world. The fact is that if this step, first step, leads to what is our ultimate goal, which is a comprehensive agreement, that will make the world safer. This first step, I want to emphasize, actually rolls back the program from where it is today, enlarges the breakout time, which would not have occurred unless this agreement existed. It will make our partners in the region safer. It will make our ally Israel safer. Now, this has been a difficult and a prolonged process. It's been difficult for us. It's been difficult for our allies, and it's obviously been difficult for the government of Iran. The next phase, let me be clear, will be even more difficult, and we need to be honest about it. But it will also be even more consequential. Now, while we obviously have profound differences with Iran, yet to be resolved, the fact is that this agreement could not have been reached without the decision of the Iranian government to come to the table and negotiate. And I want to say tonight that Foreign Minister Zarif worked hard, deliberated hard, and we are obviously, we believe, better that the decision was made to come here than not to, and to work hard to reach an agreement. And we thank the Foreign Minister for those efforts. Together now, we need to set about the critical task of proving to the world what Iran has said many times, that its program is, in fact, peaceful. Now, with this first step, we have created the time and the space in order to be able to pursue a comprehensive agreement that would finish the work that President Obama began on the very first day in office, and that is to ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. President Obama worked intensively, and his administration worked intensively. Before I even came in, when I was in the Congress and voted for sanctions, the President worked in order to put in place a significant sanctions regime, an unprecedented regime. And he worked with countries around the world in order to ensure broad participation and support for these sanctions. That has been essential to the success of these sanctions. And we believe that it is the sanctions that have brought us to this negotiation and ultimately to the more significant negotiation to follow for a comprehensive agreement. Make no mistakes, and I ask you, don't interpret that the sanctions were an end unto themselves. They weren't. The goal of the sanctions was always to have a negotiation. And that is precisely what is now taking place. And that negotiation's goal is to secure a strong and verifiable agreement that guarantees the peacefulness of Iran's nuclear program. For more than 4 years, the international community has been united in its willingness to negotiate in good faith. And we have been particularly crystal clear that we will do whatever is necessary in order to prevent Iran from having a nuclear weapon. We have also said that we prefer a peaceful solution, a peaceful path for Iran to respond to the international community's concerns. And as a result of those efforts, we took the first step today to move down that path. The measures that we have committed to will remain in place for 6 months, and they will address the most urgent concerns about Iran's nuclear program. Since there have been many premature and even misleading reports, I want to clearly outline what this first step entails. First, it locks the most critical components of a nuclear program into place and impedes progress in those critical components in a way that actually rolls back the stockpile of enriched uranium and widens the length of time possible for breakout. That makes people safer. With daily access, we will gain daily access to key facilities. And that will enable us to determine more quickly and with greater certainty than ever before that Iran is complying. Here's how we do that. Iran has agreed to suspend all enrichment of uranium above 5%. Iran has agreed to dilute or convert its entire stockpile of 20% enriched uranium. So let me make clear what that means. That means that whereas Iran today has about 200 kilograms of 20% enriched uranium that could readily be enriched towards a nuclear weapon, in 6 months, Iran will have zero. Zero. Iran will not increase its stockpile of 3.5% lower enriched uranium over the next 6 months, and it will not construct additional enrichment facilities. Iran will not manufacture centrifuges beyond those that are broken and must be replaced. Very importantly, Iran will not commission or fuel the Arak reactor, A-R-A-K, reactor, an unfinished facility that, if it became operational, would provide Iran with an alternative plutonium path to a nuclear weapon. And to ensure that these commitments are met, Iran has agreed to submit its program to unprecedented monitoring. For the international community, this first step will provide the most far-reaching insight and view of Iran's nuclear program that the international community has ever had.